In recent times, it seems like big studios have lost sight of what goes into a good single-player experience, especially when it comes to RPGs. AAA companies are more risk-averse than ever, and by trying to please everybody, they often disappoint the very audiences they're attempting to reach. And with more studios shuttering by the day, more and more fans are going to turn to small teams and solo developers if they want to play something truly innovative.
We've spent the last couple years trying to stay on top of a bustling indie immersive sim scene, but we've both always had a deep love for RPGs, as well as indie games. So we figured, why not combine these disparate passions and spread the joy a little? Let's unpack this treasure chest and see what we find. Scottish Earthbound? Steampunk Citizen Sleeper? Goblinized Final Fantasy Tactics? That's just the beginning. Because small developers are saving RPGs!
My name is Boss Sauce.
And I'm Roland Coons. And together, we are the two-headed hero. War is grim, and it takes the hardest toll on everyday folks. That's the premise of DUSKPUNK, a new dice-rolling narrative journey from the minds of Clockwork Bird and James Patton. You start out by building your unlucky soldier, who ends up left for dead amongst a sea of corpses headed for processing. You break free of the body pile, but end up wounded and destitute on the streets of the steampunk city of Dredgeport, the capital of the Empire, and have to find a way to survive while navigating the dangerous gangs and staying one step ahead of the military police that are looking to press you back into service.
Mechanically, DUSKPUNK puts deep storytelling together with a little light skill management and dice-rolling gameplay. The end result feels more like a tabletop session, not unlike Citizen Sleeper, where your dice rolls are treated as a resource, and you have only a certain number of carefully rationed choices to make each day before your character collapses of exhaustion. Steampunk Citizen Sleeper is not a bad comparison.
And that's why you'll be hearing us say Citizen Sleeper a lot right now.
And Steampunk a lot.
I'm Steampunk now. Yeah, I don't know what that is, man.
Tabletop fans might recognize both Citizen Sleeper and DUSKPUNK's use of the clocks system from the Blades in the Dark RPG. Basically, draw a circle and divide it into pie slices, and then you can use those segments as a meter for anything you like. Juggling the number of actions you have per day with the clocks you want to complete and the dice rolls that you're good at is key to survival.
Similarly to the Citizen Sleeper series, DUSKPUNK starts you out in a grim-ass position.
Grimace is my favorite McDonald's character.
Instead of a dying, escaped slave robot, you are a diseased, footless World War I deserter with PTSD. And that does not stand for pizza-tasting super dynamics. God damn it, that's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, but here we are.
Yep.
We spent quite a while coming up with pizza-tasting super dynamics. I hope everybody is really pleased with us.
However, much like Citizen Sleeper 1 and 2, DUSKPUNK gives you a very satisfying progression throughout the game towards a feeling of self-realization. Oh!
If you like the idea of a choice chamber where you can decide the fate of a city and already finished off both of the Citizen Sleeper games, DUSKPUNK should be next in your meat grinder. Winky!
Let's step away from Steampunk Citizen Sleeper for now and get lost in the magical, mystical realm of Scotland. Okay, sure, unlike Dredgeport, Scotland's actually a real place. But Cairn, Mathair's curse, shows us the warped cultic underbelly that lies below the Highlands. This charming JRPG-style adventure from Ross McRitchie borrows from the best of the 16-bit era, but if I had to nail down two words that best describe it, they would be Scottish Earthbound.
Celtic.
Celtic cults and kilts. Celtic cults and kilts. Celtic cults and kilts. Celtic cults and kilts.
Stop it. The opening chapters put you in the well-worn boots of an elderly groundskeeper who stumbles on a sinister ritual in a forgotten cave. Don't go in there. Don't go in the forgotten caves.
You gonna go in there. I'm gonna do it again.
From there, the line between dream and reality constantly blurs. You'll find yourself gripped within the twisted nightmares of a young boy named Alex, only to suddenly awaken to the familiar scene of a day at the beach. But these dreams might be more than they appear, and your sense of comfort slowly slips out of your hands as Alex's grandmother reveals his family's gift of foresight. From here, the game's narrative shifts across 4 main characters, each with a role to play, each taking one step further to uncover a world-ending conspiracy over the 30-hour runtime.
Even though there's some dark and spooky subject matter at the heart of the game, Cairn takes care to pull clever doses of humor around every single turn. Some of the Scottish-flavored references might have flown right over my stupid American head, but I was absolutely charmed by each of the NPC encounters, and even the little descriptive touches. In a bit of a nod to classic point-and-click adventures, you can inspect just about everything in the game. See this beach? There's a separate joke for every hole in the sand. This really helps cultivate the atmosphere and set the moment-to-moment tone of the game.
From the gorgeous pixel art to the absolutely bangin' chiptune soundtrack, the attention to detail makes it clear that a ton of care went into making Cairn into an unforgettable experience. What other RPG introduces you to combat by having you fight a stubborn wooden gate? Writing this off as yet another RPG Maker game would be a massive mistake. If you're looking for an old school RPG that's spooky, silly, cultic, Celtic, and Kiltic all at once, this is one Cairn you'll definitely want to break into.
Let's face it, the real world can give us enough to worry about without having to add virtual stress into our lives. So I'm glad to see comedy RPGs making a comeback. The crazy Hyperdungeon Chronicles already sets the stage by its ridiculous title alone, but this inventive little adventure from Fix-A-Bug goes above and beyond to turn tired old fantasy tropes on their heads. As the game opens, King Dandelion reveals that he's finally read a book. Likely for the first time ever, and within those ancient pages he found the fable of the sacred gruel. Little is known of this mysterious treasure other than the fact that a giant, dangerous dungeon lies on top of it. The king decides that he needs it for his trophy room at any cost, so in order to keep him out of the way, his chief advisor sends 2 heroes into the crazy hyper dungeon to retrieve it. One of these heroes is you, and the other is your nemesis, your annoying cousin. The same one who tormented you constantly throughout your childhood by locking you in broom closets and otherwise making your life miserable.
At a glance, Hyperdungeon might be easy to pass over. You move a little pixel character around a tile grid filled with traps, treasures, monsters, and the like in order to find a stairway down to the next floor. That seems like the absolute bare minimum for an RPG, but with each new floor comes a new layer of challenges and mechanics that make every playthrough feel different. Survival dances along a knife's edge as you carefully dodge traps, fight fearsome foes, and uncover powerful secret artifacts hidden throughout the darkened halls. And in all the excitement, you'll need to make sure to keep your hero fed, because hey, you're in a dungeon, and nothing grows down here. Or does it?
Of course, this can all play out completely differently if you choose another difficulty mode, because this game brags of 3 different approaches: story-based, exploration-heavy, or combat-focused, all which serve to change the Hyperdungeon experience in dramatically different ways. The story mode doesn't just make the combat and exploration easier, it adds a ton more dialogue options and alternative ways to progress. Exploration mode is more about finding secrets. Little things like lighting all the torches in a level or figuring out puzzles grant extra experience points. Destroyer mode is more of a traditional dungeon crawl that sets out to test your skill in the game's combat system, which is highly original on its own.
It's hard to even call them different difficulty modes because they assign more experience to the things that you want to be doing. The exploration mode makes traps deadlier, so you have to be focused on exploration.
Exactly.
That's really cool and interesting, and maybe my favorite part of the game. The game's combat takes place in real time and combines elements of the active time battle initiative with positioning and QTEs. Once the action bar fills, you'll automatically carry out an attack, whether you've got a target in front of you or not, and then you'll need to swing at just the right moment to cause actual damage. Status effects and enemy magic can change the way the combat bar functions, by slowing you down, making the hitboxes more difficult, or even completely nullifying your attacks. but you'll get to counter with special rage abilities and handy potions in order to hold your ground. At first, this seems simple, but later on, this gets hectic as you balance turn orders, time your blocks perfectly, and juggle multiple enemies at once in order to survive.
The pixel art has a unique style that brings you right back to the era of 90s DOS gaming. You get these gorgeous splash screens between levels, and every single NPC seems to have several portraits that change to match the mood of their dialogue lines. The soundtrack absolutely rules, and it'll be in your head long after you shut the game down. It's great. But mostly, I appreciated how everything is wrapped in this distinct air of whimsy and silliness that you don't often see in fantasy games. Chasing down journal pages sheds light on the prior adventurers and their attempts to grab the gruel. And that sounds kind of nasty to say that out loud.
Well, yes, because it is nasty to say out loud.
But we're here for that. The unsubscribe button's right over there, folks. The wacky inhabitants of the dungeons are always throwing you for a loop. I mean, why wouldn't this mighty wizard be bad at puzzles, and who's to say ogres don't have the most discerning palates in the land? Maybe you wouldn't expect a lot from a game that accidentally named itself Shitty Dungeon in Japan. Yes, that actually happened. But hey, even this translation error made it into an Easter egg in a follow-up patch.
Best of all, the structure of the game makes it really easy to pick up and put down whenever you want. Each bite-sized level only takes about 10 minutes or so to complete, at most, making this the perfect smoke break of a game on the list. If you're looking for something that works equally well in small doses or all-night sessions, you need to check out the Crazy Hyper Dungeon Chronicles for yourself.
Not enough games ask the most important question of our time. You ready for it?
Yeah.
What if New York could fly? Well, that's the story we've got here in Aether and Iron, the first game from Seismic Squirrel. This game follows the story of Gia, a down-on-her-luck smuggler in the mean streets of an alternate 1930s New York City where anti-gravity technology reigns supreme, and its inhabitants now live on giant floating city islands. Gia's at the end of her rope and takes on a shady job to babysit a bright-eyed scientist from the upper islands, but what should be a simple task for your average Uber driver gets real complicated real fast as she ends up tangling with vicious scrappers, oppressive soldiers, and a mysterious pursuer in a black hat.
Aether and Iron features the dice-rolling narrative mechanics of a gamebook. Oh, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna say Disco Elysium here again because that game redid conversation trees so well that every other indie RPG is served by trying to do the same. Even in the demo, there's an astonishing amount of voice acting, and it's quite good.
Excuse me, Mr. Blanc, but I'm here for business, not pleasure. An unhurried puff of smoke fills the booth. I hear the edge in his voice press against me. His eyes are narrowed points.
You do not set the terms, Randazzo. This is my table. My favor to you.
Gia's got a world-weary, sarcastic tone that slips into film noir, and Nessie's a bright and bubbly contrast.
Mr. Blanc wasn't kidding. This really is a babysitting job.
Ooh, what's that button do?
Yeah, don't press that.
Even the greasy military intelligence officers or the random cops that pull you over have quality performances.
I trust a pair of such good little New York girls would promptly report it if they were made aware of any illicit activity on the part of Sergeant Major Lutzko. Correct?
What do you mean, illicit?
But when you're on the mean streets of Sky, New York, danger lurks around every single stop sign. Combat's a turn-based tactical affair with hover cars bashing into each other and racing through traffic while trading gunshots, and even the road itself becomes a hazard as the battles blaze along. This Gasland-style combat system would be fun enough by itself, but the game takes it a step further by letting you improve your car with aftermarket parts and devious weapons, swap out to different kinds of vehicles, like big trucks or little scooties, and recruit additional crew members to ride alongside you. So you get a little road gang going. You get a road gang going in Sky, New York in alternative 1930s.
Road gang!
That sounds cool as hell, and it is. You can even throw on some custom paint jobs, which is a cool addition, even if the cars themselves only take like an inch or so of monitor space up.
This game is still a while off of release, but the demo is absolutely massive and crammed full of twists and turns. If you've ever wanted to get sucked into a unique crime story RPG that takes place in the screaming hover streets of the alternate 1930s, well, Aether and Iron is probably the only thing out there that scratches that itch.
You've always wanted to sit around a table covered in cards and dice while an old man relentlessly taunts you.
I am the game master, and I am here to torture you.
You filthy little pervert.
Well, deviants, consider your sick prayers answered and your kinks satisfied. Because Dark Quest 4 is here.
Now, if you're a fan of board games, you might notice the immediate and shameless resemblance to Heroquest, that one weird mid-90s collaboration between Games Workshop and Milton Bradley that went on to be a tabletop cult classic.
Once you get into it, you'll never be the same. Heroquest.
I recently got a chance to relive those memories around a good old-fashioned gaming table. If you've played this, well, you know. Drop some Heroquest memories down in the comments for us. We'd love to hear about them.
In Dark Quest 4, your little group of heroes travels across a tile-based isometric dungeon, scooping up treasures, finding secret passages, tripping over traps, and beating the bejesus out of monsters. Heroes have a fair number of stats that govern their movement, power, and survivability in different ways, but there's no experience points here. Money is your sole path to progression. But after the first few iron gates close behind you, and you fill your sack with precious coins, you'll begin to unlock additional cards. These contain powerful abilities, helpful equipment, or passive skills, and most of these can only be used a precious few times during your dungeon dive. If you're brave and clever enough to rescue them from zombie jail, you can unlock even more heroes to add to your party lineup.
Lady!
Lady! And this is where Dark Quest starts to divert from the Heroquest formula. Each of your little champions has their own special utilities and skills that can confound your foes. You have to juggle your heroes because you'll get a little bit of a health bonus for using a hero that you didn't use in the previous mission. And also, if your heroes get knocked out during a quest, they'll be wounded and you have to give them a little bit of time to recuperate. So there's a reason to build more than just your favorite 3 heroes.
The fact that you can tell when your passives are about to strike allows you to pre-plan a little better.
Yeah.
And that adds a strategic layer, and that's awesome.
If you're just always just rolling dice and seeing what happens, there is the strategic layer of positioning still, and building choice, all those things. But this, it expands the tactical layer in an important way.
All of this adds up to a simple, fast-moving tactics game. Simple doesn't mean easy. Many missions play out in a specific puzzle fashion that takes several attempts to unravel. Grinding out prior adventures is an option, sure, but each hero becomes fatigued after running through the dungeon, so you'll have to take care to rotate your warband and make sure that you bring the right mix of skills to defeat anything the catacombs throw your way.
But the best feature of Dark Quest 4 is the same one that made Heroquest a hit all those years ago. No, it's not the wizard berating you in the corner, you dirty, nasty little baby.
Although, that is very good.
You amuse me.
No, it's not the fact that you can count your ill-gotten gains like a medieval Scrooge McDuck. It's the online multiplayer. Sure, it's not quite the same as pushing plastic minis around a cardboard map and rolling those special skull dice, but Dark Quest 4 is at its best when played with a buddy or two. This one kept us coming back for more. Oh no, a mimic!
Oh no.
Finally, that's actually the rules.
It's light enough where you can have side conversations, but it's crunchy enough where you also need to strategize.
If you want to spend some time strategizing with friends, well, an evil grandpa narrates your every saucy move. Pick up Dark Quest 4.
Enjoying the roundup so far? We hope you found something new and interesting. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications real quick if you haven't already, but most of all, we're glad you're taking the time out of your busy day to watch us goof around on some games. If you can donate to help us keep this cozy little fire burning, it's incredibly appreciated. There's more casual conversations and joke tangents out there for our brave champions that support us on Patreon. And if you can't, well, we have an open Discord with community game sessions and chats that anybody can join.
My computer is about to be a brick once Windows stops working, so send me money.
Okay, let's get back into some RPG goodness. House of Necrosis. Now, you sent me this one before, and I went back and replayed it again, and I went, damn, that game good. House of Necrosis from solo developer Warkus shamelessly borrows from the original Resident Evil. The game opens up to a mysterious mansion looming in the countryside where disturbing murders are rumored to have taken place. Tank controls, camera angles, and low-poly characters all add to that familiar survival horror feeling.
You step into the combat boots of Not Jill Valentine, part of a response unit who's determined to track down the rest of her missing team. But once you walk through that threatening double door, the game switches to snappy turn-based gameplay straight out of the dungeon crawlers from a long-forgotten age.
House of Necrosis is a rare game that truly earns the term roguelike. It plays out similarly to the namesake 1980s dungeon crawler with randomized items, levels, monsters, and that oh-so-familiar permadeath. You start out in familiar territory, chopping up monsters, getting experience points, scooping up some loot. Hey, look at that! Your weapons and armor can level up too. Well, that's neat.
Further down you go, into progressively more dangerous catacombs, until you find yourself surrounded by zombies, killer crows, what are they doing down here? Or angry cactuar statues that rip you apart, taking your precious items in the process. But after a few runs, you'll start to master the dance, and if you're clever about how you use your potions, hex items, and spare weapons, you'll eventually save enough precious bullets and herbs to take down that boss. Add on some compelling meta progression with NPCs you can talk to and trade with, new mansion areas to unlock, an item stash to hold on to your best goodies, and permanent upgrades like spells or item pouches, and you have a game that's perfectly tuned for quick 30-minute runs. House of Necrosis tickles my nostalgia nuggets in all the right ways, and absolutely nails that just one more run feeling. Ever want to be the communist landlord of a crumbling apartment building at the outset of a global war? Well, this is more than just a sitcom pitch. In the upcoming adventure RPG GLASSHOUSE from Flat 28 Collective, you're stuck in lockdown with a handful of wacky neighbors and challenged to keep the peace. Limited rations, rising tensions, and a lungful of carcinogens are just some of the problems you'll face on your very first day. Broken doorknobs are another. Oh, and don't forget the cold-blooded murder!
Unlike other RPGs, there's no traditional stat block in GLASSHOUSE, so you can put your funny dice away. Instead, your political ideologies become your character build. This gives the game a serious Disco Elysium feel down to the grungy stylized visuals, right sidebar dialogues, exceedingly gray moral choices, and of course, the fourth wall breaking narration. We definitely go hard on this one, so if you want to hear us ramble about GLASSHOUSE and the differences between that and Disco Elysium, where the game fails and where it's interesting, well, we have about 30 minutes of rambling on our Patreon as well.
Crafting and inventory management take a part here, with convenient stashes located on every floor to keep this from being a true pain. Rummaging through everyone's discarded trash and old books helps you learn more about the world and its socio-political situation, and you might even uncover tidbits of info that give you some insights on dealing with the colorful characters. You'll also get into RPG interpretations of exciting landlord action, like fixing that broken doorknob with a QuickTime event, stealing herbs from your hippie neighbor to take a little bit of the edge off of your condition, or breaking up an argument between roommates.
Depending on your chosen beliefs, you can open up different conversations and quest solutions as well as combat abilities. The battles have something to do with dice, so take the funny dice back out. How does combat work? I'm not sure. Maybe I just didn't fully understand it, maybe it wasn't working quite right because the game is in an alpha state, but either way it's far from feature complete. A lot of tooltips read not implemented for many of the usable skills and items. Still, I really like what they're going for here. Trying to take down your opponent by spouting off political platitudes while they repeatedly slam a left hook into your face is a vibe. Is this going to be conservative Disco Elysium, or is it just like a really fumbly storytelling, or is it going for a twist?
I mean, it's definitely going to do a weird murder mystery twist. Here are my thoughts on Glass House, okay? Whenever you engage with ideology, game mechanics are being used to describe interactions between the ideologies, you are saying something about those ideologies, right? And so that's what is so confusing about the way the game is set up. So you're asked to describe your beliefs to create your character up front. Those are also your stats. If you decide to go heavy into one or two of them, mechanically, it is more useful to you.
But the fact that you have to go in blind and be like, this is the character I'm making without knowing any context is kind of weird when you're playing a predefined guy. Because you're not playing Disco Elysium where you're a blank slate, where you're like, I got so drunk I don't remember anything, so now what am I? I don't know, I gotta figure it out, that's the game. That was a big pull, as you had a personal mystery for the whole game of Disco Elysium. But in this one, you're a sad dude with cancer.
Disco Elysium, the player gets to express themselves throughout the whole game by constantly making decisions about how they're going to interact with different situations by expressing the views of a variety of ideologies.
Right.
In this game, those options are locked to you, right?
It's backwards.
You choose that at the beginning, and then you can express the ones that you chose.
Exactly, it's backwards. You should think that your actions would inform your character growth, not the other way around.
Right, exactly. You can see what happens, but you don't get to constantly reform your opinions.
Here's the thing. It's interesting.
I do agree that it is interesting. That's why
it's here. While the tone of Glass House often swings between somber and satirical, it takes a sudden 90-degree turn when you stumble onto the scene of a gruesome massacre at the neighbor's place downstairs. That's a hell of a cliffhanger for the first hour of Glass House, and while the message might be a little muddled, I'm definitely looking forward to getting stuck inside that crusty old apartment building all over again when the full game comes out. On the surface, Hunter's Moon from Crimson Herring Studios adds one more title to the towering stack of roguelike deck builders. This card-powered adventure simulator normally wouldn't be what springs to mind when you think RPG, but the more I played it, the more I felt like I was really doing, well, a lot of RPG stuff.
One foggy night in a steampunk and sorcery version of Victorian London, a mysterious purple moon rises into the sky and refuses to leave. Get out of here, moon! A peppy little paranormal investigator named Griswold decides to take his airship up into the clouds to investigate when a sudden storm pops his balloon, crashing it into the countryside.
So Griswold does what anyone would do, straps on his Gundam suit and brings his other, smaller airship buddy to check out the damage, but something else ain't right here. Villagers have gone weird in the head. Maybe it's just that country breedin', but it seems like some of them got more parts than usual. Even the hedgehogs have mutated, and not in a fun Sonic kind of way though, it's more of a creepy David Cronenberg kind of way. So Griswold sends word to round up the boys and girls of his ghost hunting club in order to fix up the airship, figure out what's going on, and try to break the curse of the Hunter's Moon. I brought up this game in a prior video back when the demo dropped, but the game's out now, so here it is again. The finished product definitely delivers on the promise of a semi-random role-playing adventure with somewhat Slay the Spire style combat, but there's a ton of important distinctions. First of all, there's 4 different agents, each with their own special skills and upgrade paths, and half of the agents bring along a little computer-controlled buddy, so that you don't feel so lonely when a werewolf bites you in half.
Yeah, that's the main thing that I feel when a werewolf bites me in half.
I feel lonely. I'm like lonely for my bottom half.
After playing a tutorial round as Mecha Grizzy here, you take control of Molly, who pries herself off a bar stool to go investigate Scooby-Doo style mysteries and track down spare parts while Griswold fixes up the old Zeppelin. Molly's a pretty good all-around starter character, a roguish sharpshooter gambler type with some excellent shop discount perks and a quick draw ability that puts more cards in your hand. And she gets to bring along a good boy named Hercules on her mission, so that's delightful. No notes. Naturally, this means getting in a lot of fights with whatever ghoulies try to grab ya.
The battle system is based on pushing cards around, anticipating the enemy's moves, and using special items when you're in a tight spot. Familiar ground for sure, and there's plenty of challenge for strategy heads, but what I really enjoyed was the use of a deck to navigate the narrative path, which requires careful card placement strategy for survival. Drawing the right card at the right time to get a clutch heal at the tavern or an important relic can often be more important than the outcomes of the battles themselves. And this is also where the meat of the storyline takes place. As an agent of the Crown's special Spooky Time Brigade, you'll be tasked with dangerous jobs like tracking down an undead highwayman, exterminating massive sewer rats, and sending killer mermaids back down into the briny deep.
In addition to the gorgeously drawn Darkest Dungeon style Mignola-inspired art, Hunter's Moon also features animated cutscenes and full narrative voiceovers.
A pale woman floats face down at the edge, dress billowing in the still water, hair drifting in a lank fan around her head.
Both of which help breathe life into the random story encounters you'll stumble over along the road. The game strikes a good balance between random elements and replaying adventures that you couldn't quite clear last time, which helps avoid that feeling of being trapped in RNG prison and keeps things feeling fresh. If you want something a little more loose and freeform than a traditional sword swinger and love pushing cards around, Hunter's Moon will keep you coming back for more.
And if that's still not enough, well, Sovereign Syndicate is an RPG from the same developer that takes place in the same setting. Rather than the familiar grind and loot dance that you're used to, this is a narrative role-playing experience ruled by tarot decks and shaped by player choices. You'll take control of a motley crew of characters who get thrown together by circumstance and tasked with taking down a mysterious cult. And it's one more Disco Elysium-like for the pile. Plenty of mileage between these two games for those that love the unique mixture of steampunk and fantasy.
Ever had a bad day? Not just the kind where you drop your breakfast on the floor in front of your dog or forget your bike seat before that long ride home. No, we're talking about the type of bad day where you're suddenly forced to entertain the whims of a merciless tyrant and his antagonistic court of nobles. The price of failure? A one-way trip under the headsman's axe.
SULTAN'S game from developer Double Cross is relatively unknown in the English-speaking world, but has over 20,000 reviews on Steam in China. There's an extremely good reason for this. It might just be the most compelling narrative deck-building game ever devised. It's filled with gorgeous art and a frankly boggling number of storylines, characters, stats, gear, and encounters.
The game starts with a bored sultan ruling over a time of relative peace. He's so bored, in fact, that the usual distractions fail to move him any longer. One day, a wandering magician comes to court with a special box. Inside lies a deck of cards that have power over life and death itself. The Wanderer convinces the Sultan that this is a brand new way for him to experience his power all over again, and the thrill of leaving certain things to chance while finding ways to slake the thirst of the magic cards becomes the Sultan's latest fascination. The Sultan will find himself marrying off his consorts to commoners, casting off vast parts of his fortune, or sacrificing long-trusted advisors, all in the name of the Sultan's game.
An hour in, you find out that all this was just the tutorial. To further his amusement, the Sultan turns the game on a minor noble who then has to get real inventive real fast in order to satisfy the demands of the deck without all the power and riches that the Sultan himself enjoys. From here on out, you'll be playing as this extremely unfortunate noble, currying favor at court, raising funds, gathering intelligence, and even removing your enemies, all in the name of the Sultan's game.
And I mean, removing your enemies, removing your friends,
removing random beggars on the street. You're doing a lot of removing in this game.
There's plenty of removing, there's plenty of romancing.
There's plenty of conquest, there's plenty of adventure.
I guess also it might be nice to put a little content warning in here because there's a fair deal of adult situations in this game.
Extra spice.
While the Sultan has decreed that you will receive no punishment for actions taken that directly involve the game, the process of getting these goals across the finish line is a jagged path. Each choice you make can result in great sacrifice, terrible tragedy, and unexpected rewards. You might just find help in places you least expect. An orphan at your door might be a way to slake the thirst of a card that requires bloodshed, or she might become a powerful ally in the future. An expedition in the desert might lead to utter ruin, or you might curry the favor of a powerful djinn. But no matter what, every single card you draw must be satisfied in 7 days, or you will face execution. Yeah, it's another roguelike.
Yeah, but it's so different from anything else I've played on this entire list. It's so much deeper. The results of your machinations push the narrative towards different paths, which can end up in happy endings, like escaping the Sultan's reach and leaving the game behind forever, or even sparking a revolution to overthrow his iron rule, or some not-so-great endings where your head becomes separated from your body. In fact, most of the not-so-great endings involve your head becoming separated from your body.
You are having a hard time keeping that boy on there, I will tell you what.
All this and more gets linked to various in-game achievements that unlock even more story branches, cards, and additional encounters for your next playthrough. Long story short, check out Sultan's game if you like cards. Anything with cards in it, this is a great game.
Narrative cards,
honestly.
Get in there.
Yeah.
The Secret of Weepstone.
The Secret of Weepstone from Talesworth Game Studio is more than just a traditional party-based dungeon crawler. It's a time machine that takes you back to the early days of tabletop role-playing.
First off, the game is absolutely gorgeous. The stone walls and dim torches of Weepstone Keep all feel instantly screenshot-worthy, with each frame of the game looking like a painting from a source book. There's also a really cool hatchmark lighting effect here that YouTube will probably smear beyond all recognition. Beautifully drawn characters and monsters evoke the nostalgia of first edition D&D while still being legally distinct. They probably would evoke nostalgia if I had been, alive at that point in history. We're old, but we're not quite that old.
The game opens up with the old tavern trope. Lord Oswald, the brother of Lord Byron, visits the local tavern seeking heroes for hire. Byron has fallen ill with only the occasional reference to Weepstone Keep slipping from his lips. Lacking any alternative, Oswald recruits 6 local villagers to investigate the cursed keep of Weepstone and try to find the cause of the Lord's madness.
Weepstone takes the concept of old-school dungeon crawling one step further. Your 6 tavern-goers start out as just ordinary villagers, not experienced adventurers, so your hiring pool is the likes of the housekeeper, the blacksmith, and the village idiot, which all start out at level 0, but have the potential to become heroes, if they survive. Yes, this, in the tabletop space, is what's known as a funnel adventure.
Exploring the castle is a treat on its own. Opening a new room treats you to a short cutscene and a fully voiced description from the dungeon master, and the clues left behind by the keep's former staff have some flourishes on their own. Hey, the castle blacksmith even leaves a talking letter behind.
So I'm a daft, blasted idiot. I just can't seem to keep my head on straight anymore these days.
A few simple yet satisfying puzzles and skill checks are scattered around, and besting these can net you some bonus items to help you on your quest. You'll be scouring the forgotten passages and abandoned rooms of the keep for better gear to even stand a chance. Because remember, these are just ordinary peasants, armed with only the tools of their trade and the clothes on their backs. The blacksmith starts with his hammer. The orphan gets a teddy bear filled with lead.
A leady bear? Combat is simple but brutal. Stat numbers are low, dice are unforgiving, and a single errant swipe from a kobold can bring a peasant to their knees. But even death can be a new beginning. Your fallen characters can provide important new abilities from beyond the grave that drastically change how encounters can play out.
All of these slight nudges toward modernization made the game feel simple and intuitive to play, and it always felt like there was more to discover, which was great. But what I loved the most were all the little nods to pen and paper games that are scattered through the dark halls of Weepstone Keep. The dice are physics objects, and it's pretty fun to watch them bounce off an enemy's face during the middle of a fight. The map is attached to the cover of an old 1980s style module booklet. This is one demo that wowed me at every single turn and left me begging for more. And if you like CRPGs that have style, The Secret of Weepstone is a treasure you'll want to put in your own wish list.
A large, barren courtyard opens before you, complete with mature trees and cobblestone walkways. As you cross the threshold, a sprinkling of pebbles and dust rain down from above. From atop the towering walls surrounding the courtyard, a group of screeching kobolds vault the parapets and descend upon you.
Queen's Domain taps into nostalgia from a different era, the peak of the PlayStation 1. It's designed from the ground up to feel like a new entry into the cult classic Kingsfield series, and largely succeeds at that concept. Your father goes missing during an expedition, and it falls to you to find out what happened. One shipwreck later, you wash up on a mysterious island covered in majestic ruins and mutated creatures. The remaining guardsmen are ragged and exhausted, and tell of possible survivors further towards the heart of the island. With nothing but a rusted blade in hand, you set out in search of answers.
The island swarms with strange hybrid monsters like beetle rats and grasshopper chickens. Kinda silly, but fun. As another nod to From Software, we've got the ever-present skeletons that pop up from piles of bones and reassemble themselves, which is neat. Fights are an old-school affair. You'll keep an eye out on the stamina meter in the corner, making sure it fills up so that your swing does maximum damage, but you can also hold down the attack button to overcharge it. While you're doing this, you can't dash out of the way, so it leaves you open to attacks. Monsters can knock a big chunk off of you whenever they hit, and all of them have different attack patterns and damage resistances that you'll have to learn. The end result is an approximation of the Dark Souls dance, stepping in and out of range of the enemies while swapping your weapons and managing your stamina to make sure that every single strike counts.
Visuals might be a bit higher fidelity than anything you'd find on the old PS1, but you can't deny the deliberate, dreamlike pace that Queen's Domain shares with its inspiration. The game still manages to incorporate a few modern conveniences that we take for granted. Twin-stick controls are thankfully here instead of the old tank controls that were popular at the time. And unlike the Kingsfield games, slipping and falling into the ocean just means a tick of damage rather than a game over. There's much more verticality involved here, and smart mechanics like the magical returning throwing knives go a long way towards making combat feel more snappy and involved.
The demo might take about an hour or so to clear, but there's plenty to explore along the way. Spooky caves, idyllic beaches, and forgotten shrines are hidden in every nook and cranny. At the end, there's a big boss battle against a giant skeleton, who's busy playing his ribs like a xylophone. The reward for defeating him, though, is a sneak peek at this awesome sword that you never get to touch. But then you get this really cool, montage at the end of all the other stuff that's in the game, and it makes you want to play it really bad, and I really want to play it bad, because it's cool as hell. But so far, Queen's Domain is the kind of game shaping into what you might remember 90s FromSoft to be, rather than what it actually was. And taking players back to that same headspace is a great aspiration.
Enough of this demos of upcoming games. I want to play something from 4 years ago or whatever.
5 years ago, man.
5 years ago.
This was peak pandemic game.
Tenderfoot Tactics. Listen, we love us some goblins here. Orcs are a close second, at least for me, but there's just something about controlling a weird little guy that just scurries around and causes mischief. Tenderfoot Tactics might have been overlooked back when it was released during the pandemic lockdown, which is understandable because everybody was busy mainlining Animal Crossing and wiping off groceries. There's only a couple hundred Steam reviews for this hidden gem, which is a real shame because this might be one of the best bite-sized tactics games to ever slip past us in the shadows.
At the outset, you take control of a band of 4 goblins on a mission to destroy a powerful evil spirit. This mysterious being controls the mist that's corrupted the entire world, save for a precious few goblin outposts. You know what? Goblins gotta stick together. Plants, animals, even other goblins are all vulnerable to the effects of the mist, so it's up to you, as one of the few remaining benevolent spirits, to restore the world back to its natural state by fighting countless small-scale battles.
This is a turn-based RPG. Tough as nails, tactical as hell, and super satisfying to succeed in. Your goblin recruits are all randomized at the beginning, only having a couple of useful skills that you'll struggle to make the most of. But soon, through the job system, you'll end up with a variety of mighty warriors and wizards to lead you to victory. A job system, in case you haven't heard of one before, is the sort of character progression system that Final Fantasy Tactics and the like employ.
Famously. The combat system is deep as hell, and I think the terrain deformation is extremely clever, and they're able to make it all work and work easily due to the fact that each encounter is a small square of tiles that can be manipulated almost indefinitely.
And it can fit all on one screen.
Exactly.
So it's very screenshotable as well.
Yes.
Which hasn't helped it explode, but, here we are.
Nope, not at all. But I mean, again, Animal Crossing happened at the same time as this game, so. But one of the best parts about Tenderfoot is the sense of exploring a vast, unfamiliar landscape with very little to point your way. The abstract nature of the art style, the foggy landscapes, and the psychedelic visuals all play into the surrealist vibes here, and it kind of feels like you're seeing the world through the eyes of a weird goblin demigod. Maps are scattered around on billboards and signposts, but not all of them show more than a piece of the landmass, and many don't even agree on which direction is north. Personally, I thought this was really cool. You're forced to pay attention to the shapes of the landmasses and islands and the landmarks on them, rather than feeling like the world is just a big checklist. Your bird companion allows you to swoop into the air at any time to get a them-eyed view and mark a few important nearby areas, but there's often no fixed objective. It's really reminiscent of the new Zelda games in that regard. You look for a landmark, a village, anything interesting, and you try to work out a way to get over to it. Adventure is just what happens along the way, and even getting around has a unique flavor. Your little goblin band is under your direct control in the field, and you're able to sneak past enemies and lurk around them or run away from them by skating down hills. I guess the only real complaint I had about this approach is the lack of a return to base panic button if you get too lost. On my first run, my poor little band of weirdos got hopelessly lost at sea, with no way to return.
Yeah, I suppose, the way to get respawned would be to fail a fight.
But if you're in the middle of the ocean, nothing you can do. There's no landmarks, you can't zoom out far enough to see anything. And I was literally just lost at sea, and I have a good 10 minutes of sailing around trying to find land.
That aside, this game is very unique. I think it's one of the best little indie tactics games that hasn't gotten much love.
And it's super charming, and the music is really good. Gotta throw that out there.
Well, slaps legs in a Midwestern style.
Yeah. Well, guess I'll head out.
RPGs have come on a long, long journey, and there's always more to find. If you yearn to adventure at our side, answer the call. Join the mighty band of champions around the Heroes table on Patreon, tip us on Ko-Fi, or hop into our Discord and hang out with us anytime. Special thanks to these brave heroes that donate to keep the fireplace burning. Ulfgang Bristol,
Kalle Goofsel,
Adam Muselman,
Amelie McNamara,
James Blake,
Yaroslav Rybaki,
Jim DiFrancesco,
Vulpes,
Cameron Framant,
Dominic Nguyen,
John Williams,
Mirek Hotevi,
San Lunette,
Thorben Peltzer, and the rest.
Are we going back to the old Magical Grandpa?
Magical Grandpa's always appreciated.
Likes and subs are always appreciated, as well as hitting that weird hype button thing on mobile. Maybe it's cool. Maybe it makes me get hype. Maybe when I'm sitting here at my desk and I suddenly feel all hyped up, maybe that's you pressing that button.
I think what it does is it makes Magical Grandpa say something again.
I am the Game Master, and I am here to torture you and make you suffer.
Oh, that is a good button. Yeah. In the meantime, if you're looking for more videos, we have dozens just like this one.
Take a look.
Take a look.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next
Two-headed hero.
Oop, that was not in time at all. It's fine. I'll fix it in post. Two-headed fix it in post hero.